Hi there, welcome back to Sugar, Spice and Rosé. Erica here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a 3D flower cake. It is a hand painted fondant cake, and I'm going to be showing you how to make 3D modeling chocolate flowers. I'm so excited to finally be able to show you this cake. I've been wanting to do this for so long, so if you're interested in seeing how I do this, please keep on watching. The first thing that I'm going to do is start to trace my drawing. The drawing that I'm using is listed in the description box below, so if you want to see that drawing and where it comes from, feel free to do that. I've traced the drawing onto some regular paper that I've placed a piece of parchment paper over, and I'm just tracing it with some pencil. After you finish tracing your drawing onto the parchment, you're going to take a white piece of fondant and roll it approximately an eighth of an inch thick. You're going to want it fairly thin because it's going to help it to dry a lot faster. I did not roll mine thin enough, so it took forever to dry, and then it still didn't fully dry either. So after you've rolled it out, you're going to take that piece of parchment paper that you've traced onto, and you're going to take a tracing tool. I keep saying tracing, I know, but I think you call it a Dresden tool or something like that. And you're going to just press that pattern into your fondant. You're going to apply some pressure to make sure that all of your details are being put onto this fondant. You're going to want to just take your time to make sure that you're getting every single detail that you would have drawn onto that fondant. Now that you've done all of your tracing onto the fondant, you're going to remove that piece of parchment and just clean up that fondant. You're going to want a fairly flat bottom piece that you see me cutting, and then for the afro of the girl, I'm just going to do a little almost random shaping to it, and to do this I'm using a sharp paring knife and just going around the drawing to get the shape that I want. After you've cut the fondant to the shape that you want, you're going to take some brown food coloring and dilute it in some vodka or white rum and do a test paint onto a piece of fondant just to see if you have the right consistency and color. Then you're going to start painting, and I personally did a very light shade or very light coat of paint so that I can eventually build the skin tone up as I go along. So just take your time once again to make sure that you have everything, even and everything is painted nicely. And just take your time and build that color. And when you've gotten to the pigmentation that you want, you can move on to the hair. I decided to use black. I tried to, add a little yellow in there just to give it another hue or shade, but the black overpowered the yellow. But whilst I was painting the afro, I tried to do like fairly curled brush strokes to give it a little dimension so that you could see the curl in the afro. But again, the black didn't really pick up on that movement. Maybe the next time I'll use a really dark brown or deep dark brown for the hair, where you can actually see the curls and curves that I wanted to create. Now that you're finished with the skin tone and the hair, I'm just using some red food coloring, again diluted in some white rum or vodka, and I'm going to paint the lips. And this is why you need to have your details very clear, because I accidentally painted over one of my details in the mouth and I cannot erase it because it would have dyed the white fondant. So just be very mindful and careful. At this stage, we're moving on to our modeling chocolate for our 3D flowers. We're going to start with some candy melt, and you're going to melt them in the microwave for 30-second intervals, stirring often until they're fully melted. You don't want to overheat them. And you're going to take some warmed corn syrup and pour that into your melted chocolate. And you're going to stir very gently and slowly until it comes together and it's somewhat firm. And as soon as it starts to firm up, you are going to want to stop stirring it and then pour it onto some plastic wrap and flatten it fairly, not thin, but you're going to flatten it into a disc, and you're going to place that in the fridge overnight until it firms up. In some climates, you can just allow it to cool at room temperature, but I tried that, but it's so hot where I live, it was not firming up. So I placed it in the fridge overnight and allowed it to set. Okay, so now that your modeling chocolate has firmed up, you're just going to remove a small piece. You're going to knead that for a few minutes and then use some icing sugar to dust onto the surface and then just roll it out fairly thin. Again, another about 1/4 inch. It would be good. You don't have to measure it, you just want it thin but not too thin. And after you've gotten it to the size you want, then you're going to take your flower cutter. I'm using this daisy like plunger to cut out my flowers, and then from there, whilst they're cut out, I'm going to place it in an egg tray that's aligned with plastic wrap and put the flower in there and then push it in a little bit so that it gets a little shape. And then I'm going to paint the center of the flower yellow. I didn't record that, I don't know why, but yeah, just paint the center of the flowers yellow. The next step that I'm going to do is just place my flowers onto my dried painted fondant just to see the placement of the flowers, to see what I'm comfortable with. And after I've placed them where I want them to, I'm going to take some of those melted candy melts and use that to adhere the flowers to the painted fondant. When you're done sticking the flowers onto the surface of the fondant, you're going to allow those to set in the fridge. And after that, I'm going to fill and stack my 5-layer chocolate cake with some vanilla buttercream. I'm going to crumb coat that, smooth out that buttercream, and allow that to set in the fridge so that I can use that as a base for my painted fondant to stick onto that cake. And I have another tutorial coming very soon on how to do that, so stay tuned. After your buttercream has firmed up, you're going to take some of that buttercream and just spread it onto the cake in a nice even layer, almost like a little mound. And you're going to use that mound to adhere your painted fondant onto the cake. And you're going to press it gently. Don't press too hard. You don't want to break the fondant. And when you're done doing that, you're finished. And that is the final product. I really hope you enjoy this tutorial. I had so much fun doing it and planning it, and I have so many cakes in mind that I want to create using art like this, and I'm so excited for those videos. It takes me a really long time to edit, so it's been months since I uploaded my last video, but I'm going to do my best to be consistent on this channel because I really enjoy it. I really enjoy talking to you guys. I really enjoy creating, and I want to do more of that. And it doesn't always have to be cake or creating art with the cake. I just want to have fun, you know, and I want you guys to have fun as well. So I hope you enjoy this video, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.